Hello, hello, hello. Okay, today's topic. I think the last one kind of blew a lot of people out of the water, which I think is interesting. Just because I put the word faith in the title. Okay, so today's topic. I was just watching, as Spirit would have it, I literally just sat down to eat some lunch and turned on the TV, and at that exact moment there was a channel with a documentary called The Observed Life, and it was about technology, the addiction to technology, how technology is potentially going to come around and benefit us in more ways than that it is on a social side. However, right now where it is in its contradiction in social behavior, in brainwaves, in addiction, you know, that it's now potentially on the same level as an addictive drug, which I guess we kind of knew, but yeah, so it was very, I mean, like, boom. And it was literally like a 20-minute, just enough time to eat my lunch and have some interesting input into my unconscious. And so when I was listening to what we needed to talk about today, well, the word that came up was contradictions. And what's funny was there was this mom, lovely mother with a lovely child, and her comment was, her child is not even 2, and she's so she's not addicting. She didn't use the word addicting. Let's see. She's so needing her technology, and she's staying up to, it's like she's staying up to date was almost how it was coming about. And later on in the she said, I don't know, I don't understand it, I'm not sure if it's a good thing or not. Well, later on in the segment, they come back and I'm sorry. Later on, she comes back on the segment and says, almost like she doesn't understand where this fascination, that's the word where this fascination's coming from. While she's doing selfies with her baby constantly and constantly videotaping the baby with a camera. The camera now becomes the piece between the mother and the child. Where does it come from? Seriously? So yes, it's called The Observed Life, and she had questions, and it was nice that she had actually questioned herself as to whether she was observing life through the camera and the cell phone versus actually being in her life. And so, yeah, so contradictions. And then when I was listening about contradictions from guidance, it's everywhere. Contradiction is everywhere. You cannot turn on the TV and have one commercial for some pharmaceutical that is not filled and riddled with contradiction. Take this to improve your day and your life. Side effects, you may die. I mean, what? Totally confusing. And so what I'm hearing is that contradictions become such a part of our life daily. For example, I want to do this, but I can't. Anytime you put the word but after something, you're negating everything that precedes it. And the truth is in the last half. I love you, but. I want to be with you, but. Take this drug to get healthier, but. I'd like to make time for this, but. right? So you're stating a contradiction out of your own mouth all the time. We all have to be aware of this. Because how can you be spiritual and not have faith in something? And when I was putting the question about faith and trust, I didn't care if someone called it their yoga practice or if they called it their sleeping in bed. It's just contradictions. Let's look at them. Let's face up to them. See if you can point them out and not be just passive about them. One of the reasons I'm so good with contradictions is because I grew up in contradictions and complete polar opposites of each other. Was my influence. So I'm grateful for it. At the same time, I literally go crazy sometimes because I cannot shut off finding contradictions. It's fun. It makes my day fun. However, now, not all contradictions can be bad, so to speak. Some contradictions are inspiring. Some contradictions are motivators. Okay? For example, I love the body. I love anatomy. I love function of the body. I love how the cells in the scar tissue and the sinew and all of it have its own characteristics and dialogue and things to say, and everybody, and they're different. On the other side, I've been in pain since I've been 9 or 10 years old, so that contradiction, that's a contradiction in some realms, right? So there are times when I'm really upset and in pain, and every day's different and unreliable, and yet I know the body is completely reliable. So I use that contradiction to do both, understand my own process, and use it in my faith. My faith is in the body, in the functionality and its desires, and I have multiple faith systems. So all kind of generating around the concept of nature. So contradictions are not always a negative. However, it's going to be determined how we think about them. Okay, so I could be, I could stop my practice and say, well, if I can't get better, then I shouldn't be doing this work, right? How can I say other people can get better? Because everybody can, and I still do get better here, in my life, in my process, with the things that I need to do and that I get directed to do and that I follow. It does make things better for me. So, again, that's how contradictions can be motivators. Understanding that contradictions were part of my life, brought me to being able to find contradictions. And so when people talk to me about what their stuckness is about in their perspective and their understanding, and they give me examples which completely contradict what's going on because they don't know how to put things together within that, those contradictions motivate an interpretation that will help them get out of being stuck, right? So does that make sense? So your exercise is to look at the difference between blatant contradictions that make no sense whatsoever and the minute ones that may be a positive contributing factor to you enjoying something or you pursuing something. Okay? And part of the contradictions, are some of the judgments that are created in our environment, in our social realms, in our social circles, And yet, you know, we can't fix them, change them all at the same time. They're going to be pieces, so you're going to have to pick and choose, as do I, which ones we want to focus on. And at the same time, contradictions. So see what it is. See what my dogs are barking their heads off right now. It's contradiction to me trying to be attempting to be a silent taping. But life goes on. And so look and see what contradictions you maybe didn't acknowledge before, and see if that's something you really want to keep doing and having as part of your story, as part of your existence, your contradictions. Okay, so write them down and see which ones you'd really like to change, and then work towards that. And then when it gets to a point where you can look at go back and review, and maybe some of those contradictions self-resolved because you focused on one. And if that's the case, then you can make another list if there's something that you'd like to look at. So look at contradictions, and certainly within your words. If you use the word but within your conversation, know that you're putting out contradictions within that statement. Okay? If you are wanting to be more clear and authentic, then and you want to have a healing in a certain aspect of your life, anytime you talk about that subject, the word but should not be part of the dialogue. So instead you can say, I want to spend time with you and I have to do this, or I have to spend time with you, let's figure out when, right now is not a good time, that sort of thing. That's the kind of clarity we're looking for. And with those little barky barks that are happening in the background, my lovelies, am on day 21. 7 more days of this month. And this weather's freaking me out. My energies are... And it's not just me. For some reason today people seem to be a little more frisky. That's why I've stayed home for most of the day. But now I must venture into the world and breathe through my contradictions of observation. My observations of contradictions. And I will see you again in the next one. Bye.